Hello, my name is Jitterz and welcome back to another episode of Why You Should Play, a series of mine where I talk about the various roles in Valorant. In this series, I always start off by talking about what the role is before explaining the main job of that role, and then finally ending off the video by talking about the important skills you can learn by playing agents in that role. For this episode, I'm going to be talking about controllers. So like always, I'm going to start off by talking about what a controller is. The 4 controllers currently in the game are Viper, Astra, Omen, and Brimstone. The thing that separates these agents from the other classes in the game is their ability to smoke parts of the map, and they can all do so at a very far range. In fact, the range of a controller's abilities are some of, if not the furthest in the entire game. Agents like Astra and Omen can smoke pretty much anywhere on the map, and although Viper needs to be in the exact location she wants to be to put down her wall, she can activate and deactivate it from anywhere on the map. And when it comes to this class, controllers are the heart of a team. They are, in my opinion, the most important role in the game. Having a really good controller or a really bad one can make or break a game. If you ask me, if the amount of impact each player had was divided into percentages, in a perfectly even world, each role would have exactly 20% impact. But I think that the impact is more weighted in the hands of a controller player. To me, I would argue that a controller probably accounts for closer to 25 or even 30% of a game's outcome, and the remaining 70 to 75% is split amongst the rest of the 4 players. This is because the controller on the team is the only agent in the entire game that can impact every single part of the map. This is done usually through their smokes, but an agent like Astra can really use her entire kit to help any part of the map, which is why you never really want your controller to be the first person to die. If your controller ever takes a risky peek and dies early, more than any other role, that round is probably over. If you lose your duelist or sentinel first, it can be hard to win that round, but sometimes you can bring it back. But if the player loses a controller, I feel like the round just swings more heavily in the enemy team's favor. Now that I've kind of explained who the controllers in the game are and what separates them from the other roles, I think it's time I talk about what the main job of a controller is. When it comes to responsibilities, a controller's job is really just to smoke for a team. On attack, that means smoking off choke points for site executes, or a choke point somewhere on defaults to deny the enemy team information. Each map has a different part of each site that are usually hard to watch and are just a lot easier to deal with if you just smoke them off. Examples of this would be like smoking off Garage and CT on C side of Haven, or Elbow and CT on B side of Bind. When it comes to defaults, usually your first smoke will go somewhere in the middle of the map. Some common examples are smoking off vents on Split or using a smoke for mid on Haven. But really, you could smoke anything on a default. Something like smoking off a doorway to allow a teammate to grab an ult orb, for example. You can also use your smokes on post plants to make retaking a site more difficult. Usually you'll be re-smoking a choke point you choked before, but this isn't the only option. It's important to be aware of where the enemy team is trying to retake from to decide where the best spot to smoke off is. Back to the B site bind example. Let's say you took a site on attack late into a round, it's a 2v2, and you only have 1 smoke left. If you hear 2 enemies teleport, then you know there's no reason to use your last smoke to re-smoke CT or elbow because the enemies won't be coming from there. So in a situation like this, you might decide to smoke off hookah to make it hard for enemies to retake by jumping out of it. It's important to always stay aware of what's happening in a game to know what the best way to use your utility is. Now, when it comes to defense, again your job is to smoke for the team. You should be smoking off choke points where the enemy team is trying to push. This is a great way to slow an enemy team down and gives your teammates some cover to play off of. First of all, enemy teams don't really want to have to push out of a smoke. If placed correctly, pushing out of a smoke leaves you vulnerable for a few reasons. 1, your gun will stick out before you can see, making you an easier kill for enemies. And second, when you push out of a well-placed smoke, you expose yourself to multiple angles at the same time. That makes it really hard to confidently push out of one, especially if you don't have specific util like a flash, which can stall a push long enough for teammates to rotate over to help. Secondly, a smoke gives a nice piece of cover to combo with other utility. One of the best examples is using something like a Sova recon dart in combination with the smoke. This allows you to see enemies on the other side of it when they can't see you to set up for free kills. When it comes to defense, smokes are also really important for site retakes. Just like a site execute, you can smoke off certain choke points where enemies might be to allow for an easier take of a site or a spike defuse. An example of this would be smoking off C long on a Haven C site retake, or smoking off Garage on a Split B site retake. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say about the job of a controller, so now I wanted to take a look at some of the important skills you can work on while playing this role. For starters, probably the most important thing you can learn from playing controllers is map awareness. This is something you can learn from playing any agent, but it's most important for a controller to have a good grasp on. In lower elos, you can get away with not really using your map often when playing something like a duelist. But for a controller to be able to do their job at all, they need to have a good idea of what's happening everywhere on the map. Without good map awareness, you won't know where to smoke for your team on defense if you don't know where enemies are pushing from. You won't be able to help teammates that are stuck in a sticky spot by smoking for them. And you'll probably have trouble with timing your smokes properly if you don't use your map to see where your teammates are. Learning how to use your map effectively is extremely important in a game like Valorant, because the faster you can react to a new piece of information, the higher chance that you'll be in the right spot to make a round-winning play. You'll be faster on rotates, you'll have a better idea of when it's okay to push up, you'll know when the spike's down to play accordingly. There's just so much information that you miss out on when you don't use your map. So playing agents in this class is a good way of getting you into the habit of using your map more, which will only help you improve when you play the other roles. The second skill I think you can really develop by playing controllers is playing post plants. Again, you can play a post plant situation well with any agent, but controllers specifically have some of the best post plant utility in the game. Agents like Viper with their Orb and Mollies, Astra's Gravity Well, and even Brim's Molly and Ultimate are some of the strongest abilities to use when trying to stall a spike defuse, which makes them great picks when learning how to play post plants. Not to mention that controllers are not usually expected to be one of the first agents to take contact on a team, which means that you'll actually be alive more often to play post plants compared to other roles. Now, don't get me wrong, just having the right util on your agent doesn't make you great at playing post plants. There are a lot of fundamentals you need to master to get really great at them. Things like playing time and using your util correctly to stall a defuse, not peeking the bomb before it's been tapped, waiting 4 seconds after a bomb's been tapped before peeking, learning the different sound cue for a bomb that's already been halved. These things take time to get good at, but once you master them, you'll win rounds for your team and carry your games even if you aren't lighting up the scoreboard with kills. And that's a skill that you can take to other roles you play as well, since again, playing a post plant correctly isn't something unique to just controllers. Finally, one more quick point before I end this video. I wanted to mention how playing controllers will help you to just learn how smokes work in general in Valorant. Most players that don't play the role often won't fully understand what a good smoke looks like. So learning how one should look will help you when you're not playing the role. Whether that's identifying a bad smoke that you can abuse for a cheeky kill, or being able to calm to your own controller if they're smoking something poorly to help your team with site executes. There's a lot to go over when it comes to just how smokes work, why they're so important, and how to smoke properly, and I just don't have the time to cover everything in this video. So if you're interested in seeing a video about how to smoke properly, please let me know in the comments, and if there seems to be enough interest, I'll make a video on it. But anyways, that's all for this episode of Why You Should Play. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, please leave a comment in the description letting me know. Also, if you're interested, consider following me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JitterzVal. I stream every Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m. EST. Finally, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Valorant related content.